This is part 22 of Champion, June. I wake to the sound of a siren wailing across our apartment complex. It's the air raid alarm. For a second, I'm back in Denver, sitting with Day at a little lantern-lit cafe, while sleet falls all around us, listening to him tell me that he's dying. I'm back in the panicked, chaotic streets as the siren shrieks at us. We're holding hands, running for shelter, terrified. Gradually, my room fades away into reality, and the siren wails on. My heart begins to pound. I jump out of bed, pause to comfort a whining Ollie, then rush to turn on my screen. News headlines blare out, fighting with the siren, and running along the bottom of the screen is an angry red warning. Seek cover. I scan the headlines. Enemy airships approaching Los Angeles' limits. All troops to report to their local headquarters. Elector Primo to make emergency announcement. They'd predicted that the colonies would still take 3 more days before making a move on Los Angeles. It looks like they're ahead of schedule and preparing for the end of the 3-day ceasefire, which means we need to put our plan ahead of schedule. I cover my ears from the siren, rush over to the balcony, and look out at the horizon. The morning light is still weak, and the cloudy sky makes it difficult for me to see properly, but even so, the dots lining up above California's mountain skyline are unmistakable. My breath catches in my throat. Airships, colonies, African. I can't quite tell from this distance, but there is no mistaking the fact that they are not Republic ships. Based on their position and speed, they will be hovering right over central Los Angeles before the hour's over. I click my mic on, then rush into the closet to throw on some clothes. If Andon's preparing to make an announcement soon, then it will undoubtedly be the surrender. And if that's the case, I'll need to join Day and the Patriots as quickly as I can. A fake surrender will only work for so long before it turns into a real one. "Where are you guys?" I shout when Day comes onto the line. His voice sounds as urgent as mine. The echo of the siren sounds out from his side too. "Eden's hospital room. You see the ships?" I glance again at the horizon before lacing up my boots. "Yes, I'm in. I'll be there soon. Watch the sky. Stay safe." He hesitates for 2 seconds. "And hurry. We've got a problem." Then our call cuts off, and I'm out the door with Ollie close at my side, galloping like the wind. By the time we reach the Central Hospital's lab floor in the bank tower and are ushered in to see Day, Eden, and the Patriots, the sirens have stopped. The sector's electricity must have been switched off again, and aside from the main government buildings like the bank tower, the landscape outside looks eerily black, swallowed nearly whole by damp morning shadows. Down the hall, the screens show an empty podium where Andon will be standing any minute now, poised to give a live national address. Ollie stays glued to my side, panting his distress. I reach down and pat him several times, and he rewards me with a lick of my hand. I meet Day and the others in Eden's room right as Andon appears on screen. Eden looks exhausted and half-conscious. He still has an IV hooked up to his arm, but aside from that, there are no other tubes or wires. Beside the bed, a lab tech is typing notes onto a notepad. Day and Pasco are wearing what look like dark Republic suits meant for physically demanding missions. It's the same sort of suit I'd once worn back when I first needed to break Day out of Balta Hall, when I spent a late night skimming building roofs in search of Cade. Both of them are talking to a lab tech, and based on their expressions, they're not getting good news. I want to ask them for details, but Andon has stepped up to the podium already, and my words fade away as we turn our attention to the screen. All I hear is the sound of our breathing and the ominous, distant hum of approaching airships. Andon looks composed, and even though he's only a year older than the first time I met him, the weight and gravity on his face make him look much more mature than he actually is. Only the slight clench of his jaw reveals a hint of his real emotions. He's dressed in solid white with silver epaulets on his shoulders and a gold Republic seal pinned near the collar of his military coat. Behind him are 2 flags. One is the Republic, while the other is blank, white, devoid of color. I swallow hard. It's a flag I know well from all my studies, but one that I've never seen used. We all knew this was coming. We had planned this, and we know it's not real, but even so, I can't help feeling a deep, dark sense of grief and failure, as if we are truly handing our country over to someone else. "Soldiers of the Republic," Andon begins addressing the soldiers surrounding him at the base. As always, his voice is at once soft and commanding, quiet but clear. "It is with a heavy heart that I come to you today with this message. I have already relayed these same words to the Chancellor of the Colonies." He pauses for a moment as if gathering his strength. I can only imagine that for him, even faking such a gesture must weigh on him far more than it already does on me. "The Republic has officially surrendered to the Colonies." Silence. The base, filled with noise and chaos only a few minutes ago, is now suddenly still, every soldier frozen, listening in disbelief. We are now to cease all military activity against the colonies, Andon continues, and within the next day we will meet with the colony's leading officials to draft official surrender terms. He pauses, letting the weight settle over the entire base. Soldiers, we will continue to update you on information regarding this as we proceed. Then the transmission stops. He doesn't end with "Long live the Republic." A chill runs through me when the screens are replaced with an image of, not the Republic flag, but the colonies. They are doing a stellar job of making the surrender look convincing. I hope the Antarcticans are going to keep their word. I hope help is on the way. "Day, we don't have much time to get these bases ready to blow," Pasco mutters to us as the address stops. The 3 Republic soldiers with us are geared up in a similar fashion, all ready to guide them to where the air bases will be wired. "You're going to have to buy us some time. News is the colonies will start landing their airships at our bases in a few hours." Day nods. As Pasco turns away to rattle off some directions to the soldiers, Day's eyes flicker to me. In them, I see a strange sense of fear that makes my stomach churn. "Something's gone wrong with the cure, hasn't it?" I ask. "How's Eden doing?" Day sighs, running a hand through his hair, and then looks down at his brother. "He's hanging in there. But the problem is that he isn't patient 0. They said they're missing something from his blood." I look at the fragile boy in the hospital bed. "Eden isn't patient 0? But what are they missing?" "It'd be easier to show you than to try to explain it. Come on, this is something we'll need to alert Andon about. What's the point of staging this whole surrender if we won't be able to get help from Antarctica?" Day leads us out and down the hall. We walk in a tense silence for a while until we finally stop in front of a nondescript door. Day opens it. We step inside a room full of comps. A lab tech monitoring the screen rises when he sees us and ushers us over. "Time to update Miss Ypres?" "Tell me what's going on," I reply. He sits down in front of a comp and spends several minutes loading up a screen. When he finally finishes, I see 2 side-by-side comparisons of some slides of what I assume are cells. I peer more closely at them. The lab tech points to the one on the left, which looks like a series of small polygonal particles grouped around a large central cell. Attached to the particles are dozens of little tubes sticking out of the cell. "This," the lab tech says, circling the large cell with his finger, "is a simulation of an infected cell that we're trying to target. The cell has a red hue to it, indicating that viruses have taken hold inside. If no cure's involved, this cell lysses, bursts open, and dies. Now see these little particles around it. These are simulations of the cure particles that we need. They attach to the outside of the infected cell." He taps the screen twice where the large cell is, and a short animation plays, showing the particles latching onto the cell. Eventually, the cell shrinks in size and the color of it changes. They save the cell from bursting. My eyes shift over to the comparison on the right, which also has a similarly infected cell surrounded by little particles. This time, I don't see any tubes for the particles to attach to. "This is what's actually happening," the lab tech explains. "We're missing something from our cure particles that can attach to the cell's receptors. If we don't develop that, the rest of the particles can't work. The cell can't come in direct contact with the medicine, and the cell dies." I cross my arms and exchange a frown with Day, who shrugs helplessly. "How can we figure out the missing piece?" "That's the thing. Our guess is that this particle attaching feature wasn't a part of the original virus. In other words, someone specifically altered this virus. We can see traces of that marker on it when we labeled the cell." He points to tiny glowing dots scattered across the cell's surface. "This might mean, Miss Ypres, that the colonies actually physically altered this virus. The Republic certainly has no records of tampering with this one in this specific fashion." "Wait a minute," Day interrupts. "This is news to me. Are you saying that the colonies created this plague?" The lab tech gives us a grim look, then returns to the screen. "Possibly. Here's the curious thing, though. We think this additional piece, the attaching feature, originally came out of the Republic. There's a similar virus that came out of a small Colorado town. But the tracers tell us that the altered virus came out of the Tribune City, which is a warfront city on the colony's side. So somewhere along that line, Eden's virus somehow came in contact with something else in Tribune City." This is where the pieces of the puzzle finally fall into place for me. The color drains from my face. Tribune City, the city that Day and I had originally stumbled into when we first fled into the colonies. I think back to when I'd gotten ill during my arrest in the Republic, how sick and feverish I'd been when Day carried us through that underground tunnel from Lamar all the way into the colony's territory. I'd been in the colony's hospital for a night. They'd injected medicine into me, but I never considered the fact that they might have been using me for a different purpose. Had I been a part of an experiment without even realizing? Am I the one holding the missing piece of the puzzle in my bloodstream? "It's me," I whisper, cutting the lab tech short. Both he and Day give me a startled look. "What do you mean?" the lab tech asks, but Day stays silent. A look of realization washes over his face. "It's me," I repeat. The answer is so clear that I can hardly breathe. "I was in Tribune City 8 months ago. I'd gotten ill while under arrest in Colorado. If this other virus you're talking about originated first in the Republic and then came back from Tribune City in the colonies, then it's possible that the answer to your puzzle is me."